Hi, it's Chris from Lakes Meadery. Today we are going to be making a traditional mead with Meadowfoam honey. So let's get started. The honey that we are using today is Meadowfoam honey, which has nice hints of marshmallow, and I think that it will work well in a traditional. My no-rinse steriliser that I use is called Chem-San, which you dilute in a spray bottle to the manufacturer's instructions, and you can spray everything you use with it, leave it about 2 minutes, and it is sterile to use. This is the recipe card for my Meadowfoam traditional mead. Water. It's a very important part of making your alcohol. You do not want to use tap water because it could be hard water. It will also have chlorine and chloramide in it, which you do not want to use in your brews. I like to use mineral water or spring water. You can also use filtered water, but today from a supermarket that is in our country of the UK, Asda, we are going to be using natural mineral water today. The honey that I am using today is a little bit crystallized, so I will put it in a bath of water at 60 degrees in the jars until it decrystallizes, and then I will be back with you and I will put it all in the bucket. Today we're using Lalvin 71B, which is in my temperature range, perfect for me, and it is in the range of the alcohol tolerance as well. So we will add it in a cup with a teaspoon of Meadowfoam, and also we will add a little bit of cold water and then wait for it bubbling. We will do this before we start to make the mead, and then it has chance to hydrate the yeast. Yeast nutrient. It is important to add to your brew because yeast is a living organism. Like ourselves, we need vitamins and minerals to help us be happy and healthy. Yeast is the same. I use Meadowfoam, which I add in my yeast starter when rehydrating the yeast. It gets into the cell walls while rehydration happens. I also add Mead, which I like to use because it's an organic, natural yeast nutrient. You can add nutrition in two ways. You can front load, where you add it all at the beginning of your brew, or you can do a staggered nutrition schedule where you will split it into parts. You can use a calculator online to determine how much you need to split it by, and you add it on the start of fermentation, then you add it on 24 hours later, then 48 hours, and then 72 hours. So in here we have our Lalvin 71B yeast. I have also added my teaspoon of Meadowfoam. So we'll add a little bit of bottled water now. Everything has been sanitized with the no-rinse sterilizer. So we'll give that a stir. And now we will leave that until it's pitching time, which is a good thing to do is to rehydrate your yeast, because you can check when it comes to pitching time if your yeast is alive. So I'll just put this to the side, ready for when it's pitching time. When you've poured your honey jars in, if you put a little bit of water in them and give them a shake, because you've paid for this honey, so you want to get every last bit out of it. So once all your honey's in, add a little bit of water. I think at this point we will add 4 litres of water in total. Because with the weight of the honey, you don't want it fully the 10 litres, because you want a bit of room to oxygenate your brew. Oxygen at the beginning of fermentation is very important. It helps the yeast build their colony and you will have happy yeast. But when fermentation starts and alcohol starts to be produced, you do not want oxygen in your brew because it will become oxidized, and that can give some off flavors. So it is very bad once alcohol starts to be produced to add oxygen to your brew. So now we'll start giving this a bit of a stir. And when you think you've finished stirring and it's all dissolved, just keep going that extra about 3 minutes just to make sure that everything is mixed together. I will be back with you once I've done this. And because remember we are making 2 gallons of this, we need to get the water mark up to 10 litres. So I will be back with you once I've added the water of our bottled water to get this up to 10 litres. So now we're up to the 10 litre mark. We'll give it all a good stir. Getting as much oxygen in as possible. And then there are 2 things we're going to do. We are going to take a hydrometer reading, which is important that you make a note of it so you know how much alcohol you are going to have. With this recipe, I have done it so it's going to be about 12%. And then we will check the acidity level because we want it between 4 and 4.5 for a healthy pH for the yeast. So we are going to now, once we have now stirred it, we are going to take our readings. And remember that all my equipment has been sanitized and everything's had a spray with the no rinse sanitizer. So now we get our trial jar and we put the hydrometer inside, and now I like to use a turkey baster which has been sanitized to get our sample. Now you want just enough that your hydrometer is floating, and then you will take your hydrometer reading. So now we have filled it. We will see what our hydrometer reading is. I don't know if you can quite see this, but it is at 1.100, and if everything has been sanitized, we are okay to get our trial jar and pour the sample back in. And it doesn't matter about the oxygen because we need it. This is the scale of a hydrometer. The arrow shows where mine was at 1.100. The colours are slightly different to mine, but this is the scale you should be looking at. My starting gravity was a little bit higher than I would have estimated. There are two things you can do. You can add more water to get it to the correct gravity, or you can leave it. In this case, I'm going to leave it. If it ferments dry, it should ferment out at 13.1%. Because it's a new honey I haven't used before. Honeys have different sugar contents. Sometimes it can be under, sometimes it can be over. If it does come under, you can add more honey or leave it as it is, but the choice is completely up to you. Now using the turkey baster again, I have the pH strips. We're not going to need all of this, but just a few drops on it. And now we will check the pH reading. It's a little bit high at 5, so I'm going to add a quarter of a teaspoon of citric acid. Now we'll give that a stir in. And now we will take another pH reading. Just need a few drops. And the rest can go back in. Let me check my little graph. And we are between 4 and 5, so that is perfect. pH is very important during fermentation because the yeast do not like it too acidic or too alkaline. I generally like mine to sit at around 4 to 4.5 on the pH scale. You can do a test with the pH strips, which I will show you a photo of, or you can get a probe one, which you just dip into your brew and electronically it will tell you your pH. But I prefer to use the strips because I find that's the best choice for me. And you just look at it on a little graph with the colour and it tells you how alkaline or how acidic it is. If your pH isn't right or your acidity isn't balancing on the tasting, there are 3 types of acids you can use which come in powder form. I have citric acid, malic acid and tartaric acid, which all can be used in your brews. Citric acid will give a little boost to your brew in flavour, a nice little uplift. Malic acid is the stronger end of the 3 acids, which will give a strong tart flavour, and malic acid is in the middle. You can also get an acid blend which has all 3 of them in. Now we will add a bit of tannin. Today I am using wine tannin. So we'll get a teaspoon of that and add it in. Now we will give that a little stir. Tannin. It's a very important thing when making your alcohol. It helps balance it. The best way to describe it is when you have black tea or a red wine and you get that pucker mouthfeel in your mouth, that will be the tannins. You can add this in various ways. You can add a wine tannin powder, which is generally crushed ground chestnut shells. You can also use black tea stewed. So leave your bags in for about 15 minutes. You can also add oak in secondary, which will help with the tannic profile. You can also even add oak leaves, which I've done in the past. I've gone and picked some oak leaves. I have dried them. I have also sprayed them with a no-rinse sterilizer. So when you add them, there is no germs on. You add a small bit at the beginning of your brew, but then when you get to secondary, if there is not enough tannin to the mouthfeel, you can add a bit more then. We will also be adding a teaspoon, a level teaspoon of Meadow. So that goes in, and we'll give that a good stir. Get it all incorporated. You sometimes get a few lumps, but the liquid will break through it and the yeast will get to it. So now that's all lovely and mixed. Now we will pitch our yeast with the Meadowfoam. We will give that a good stir just to make sure that it's all in. There is a few floaters of the yeast nutrition, but don't worry, the yeast will still get to them and the liquid will break them up. So now we're going to put a sanitised lid on. You want to hear that snap because it means you got a good seal. And we will also add my sanitised airlock that is filled with sanitizer liquid. And now it will sit in the fermentation station on a tray, so we will have no messes, and I will be back with you when it starts bubbling. Woken up this morning, it's bubbling away, so fermentation has started. Thank you for watching, and I will be back with an update soon.